Get ready with me while I tell the story of how my skin cancer got misdiagnosed. So when I was about 6 months pregnant with my first daughter, I had this weird pink spot like right here along my hairline. And I honestly never really thought much of it until one day I realized it kept scabbing over and it just never seemed to heal. So I make an appointment with a dermatologist and she doesn't seem concerned at all. She looked at it and her exact wording was, I don't know exactly what this is, but it's not really anything to be concerned about. So I brought up the fact that it never seemed to be healing though. Like, should this be something that I'm concerned about? Because spoiler alert, if you have any type of wound or just anything on your body that never seems to be healing, that could be a potential sign of skin cancer. So then she kind of ends up blaming it on me, why it's not healing. She's like, well, I think it's just in a really tough spot. You probably, when you get in the shower, it softens up the scab and then you probably hit it with a brush or something and it keeps falling off, and that's why it seems like it's never healing. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. And because I was 6 months pregnant at this time, she didn't feel like it was worth the risk to biopsy it, especially because she didn't think it was anything. So she told me to come back in a year if it was still bothering me. So she sends me on my merry way and tells me to come back in a year. So this whole thing is just still not sitting right with me. So I happen to have an appointment with my OB later that week, and I brought it up to him and told him about, how this doctor said it wasn't worth the risk to get the biopsy. And he told me, it was perfectly safe. And in this situation, he felt like the benefit outweighed the risk and told me to go back to get the biopsy. So I go back, and I did have insurance at this time, but because I'm requesting this biopsy and my doctor didn't recommend it, it was considered an elective procedure and I had to pay for it out of pocket. So, and the doctor, not only that, the whole time she's doing the biopsy, she's basically shaming me. And she's like, I just feel like this is so unnecessary. This isn't worth the risk. It's going to be nothing. So anyway, we do the biopsy. She tells me it'll take probably about a week to get the results and to just kind of hang tight. So now 2 weeks have passed and I still haven't heard anything from this doctor's office. So I finally call and the receptionist answers and I explain to them, I'm still waiting for my results, give them my name, my birth date, and they look up my file. And the receptionist responds with, no one called you, just like that. So immediately I knew the news was not good. So the receptionist tells me that he'll have someone call me back right away. So at this point, I'm now panicking. I start Googling stuff. So based off my Google search, I diagnosed myself with basal cell. And the reason why is because when the scab would fall off of this spot, it would look almost like donut-like. That's the best way I can describe it. It'd be almost like a ring with a dimple in the center. And everything I was seeing on Google for basal cell looked a lot like that. So another 2 days pass and I have not heard anything from this office. I keep calling them, trying to get answers, and I'm not hearing back from anybody. So finally, I get a phone call at 7 o'clock at night, way after the doctor's office is closed. And it's my doctor calling me from her personal cell phone. Because I guess at this point she'd gotten all my messages and realized no one has called this girl to inform me that I did in fact have skin cancer. So she tells me I need to have Mohs surgery right away, which that's kind of just a whole other video, but basically they remove the skin cancer layer by layer until there's no more skin cancer left, and it's supposed to reduce the risk of scarring. So she tells me I need to have this surgery right away, but because I'm pregnant at the time, I can't have the surgery until I have my daughter. So I end up getting the surgery 1 month to the day of my daughter being born. So I'm 1 month postpartum with a brand new newborn baby getting this surgery. And I had a very complicated labor with my first daughter anyway, so I was already going through a whole lot. So this was just a lot to deal with. So luckily my Mohs surgery went really well. They were able to get all the skin cancer and get clear margins. The doctor who performed my surgery was literally my only good experience with a doctor at this whole facility. I have since switched dermatologists. I no longer go to that dermatologist anymore. I actually ended up getting basal cell for a second time, but luckily this whole experience helped me know what to look for. So I ended up having this little tiny pink spot on my shoulder that literally looked like nothing. It looked like a patch of dry skin, but it was a little bit itchy. And I forgot to mention earlier, this spot was a little bit itchy as well. So I brought it to my new dermatologist's attention, and right away she was like, yeah, that looks basally. And we were able to remove it immediately. I didn't need surgery or anything like that. And I think my biggest takeaway from this whole experience is, and this isn't medical advice, it's just human advice. be your own advocate. I feel like we just naturally trust doctors to tell us, what's wrong with us. But if something doesn't feel right and it's not sitting right with you, speak up, get a second, third, fourth opinion, and listen to your gut. Because at the end of the day, doctors are human. They're not going to know everything, and you know your body better than anyone else. So, I mean, could you imagine if I had went home for a year and took that doctor's advice and she said, go home in a year, and if it's still bothering you, come back, and let this cancer continue growing? And thank God in my case, I didn't have a life-threatening type of skin cancer. Basal cell typically isn't life-threatening, but the way that my surgeon described it is it's like the Titanic iceberg. Basically, at the surface, it doesn't look like much, but it's very deep inside, and it can keep growing, and it can really disfigure you the longer that you wait. And the thought of this being life-threatening skin cancer haunts me. So now if something feels wrong, like, I will get second, third, fourth opinion. So hopefully my experience can help someone else out there and you don't go through what I went through. Really quick, I think it's important to note, because my spot was not a mole, and I feel like my whole skin cancer knowledge before this experience was look for like these dark brown, scary looking moles, and that's not always the case. My spot was this little pink spot that I feel like most people wouldn't have thought twice about, and the only reason I went to the doctor, like I said, is because it kept bleeding, it kept scabbing over. So it was more of like an inconvenience. So look for things that aren't always what you typically think of with skin cancer. If it's, dry looking spot, if it's itchy, if it's oozing, just any type of spot that you didn't notice was there before and it's a brand new spot on your body, if it's something that's changing, because it might not be what you think skin cancer looks like. So don't let this potentially dangerous thing continue growing on your body. Just get it checked out, because if anything, peace of mind is the best thing that you can buy.